a week full of events around accounting, strategy, operations, legal essentials. And this evening, we are going to be talking about fractional HR. What is that, you ask? Well, we are going to dive all into it. But before we do that, I want to give you a little bit of information about Polaris Birmingham. Polaris Birmingham is a co-working and event-based hub located in Birmingham, Alabama. We are the North Star for entrepreneurs, business owners, those who dare to dream. Really, we are an educational hub. So anything you need to know, you want to learn, anybody you want to run into, we are your go-to place for that. So we're excited to bring you Ideas to Impact Week. This is a spinoff from our Small Business Week that happens at the top of May. But I said, listen, it's Small Business Month. So we're going to make sure that we are providing access and value all month long. So tonight, day 3, we are hopping into fractional HR. And I have an amazing guest here who I've known for quite some time. She has over a decade worth of experience in HR and strategy, and she's going to dive a little bit into what is fractional HR? What does it mean? And as small business owners, how can we be strategic and think through different ways to help us to grow, scale, and build our businesses? And so it's important to know all of the different things. So you may say, listen, Alicia, I am not ready for anything HR, but you will be surprised. The more you know, the more you can prepare for where you're trying to go. So I am going to kick it off to Nakia Pope to give us some information and to help us to finish off day 3 around fractional HR strategies.
Well, thank you, Alicia. First, let me say thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, guys. And I'm excited to share some information with you guys that you can utilize in your business. I understand most of the time you start a business, you focus on your zone of genius. And then some of the other things kind of move to the side because you're just not sure how to facilitate those things. So I'm going to give you guys some information about fractional HR services that you can use and really apply to your business today. So I am ready for the slides when you are. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys just a little teaser of what it is because I don't know if you know, but no day in HR is the same. When people ask what I do every day, I say pick a day out of the week. Every day is different. So I'm going to share some things with you that you can utilize for as a small business owner. A little bit about me. So I am an HR expert at my company called Resume Renovators. So I have over a decade of experience, including roles as an HR manager and currently as an HR director. And with that knowledge, I help a lot of Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies really achieve their everyday goals from an HR standpoint as well as an operational standpoint. But then I said, hey, what about the everyday person that may not have the budget that these companies have, may not have the staff, may not have the capacity to hire out? So I started my company, Resume Renovators, really to provide strategic guidance and tailor HR solutions for small business owners to help you navigate the different facets of HR, whether that's recruiting, employee relations, compliance, organizational development, all of those things. And my particular approach is personalized to each person that I work with, depending on what your need is, because no solution is the same. So let's get into it. So you're probably thinking, you hear HR. I think everybody understands what HR is, human resources, right? No business legally can operate without HR. And so if you've ever been employed, maybe you've interacted with an HR representative, you have, or maybe you have indirectly. But HR is all up in the business because no business can function or really thrive without HR. So what is fractional HR? So it really simply just involves hiring a part-time HR professional or a team to handle your HR functions. So when you allow us to handle the HR functions, it allows you to really focus on your zone of genius or your area of expertise without the cost of a full-time employee. So in layman terms, it's HR on a discount in some ways, right? And so when you think about fractional HR versus that traditional full-time HR, a full-time HR are always salary staff. They require benefits, and they are involved in the day-to-day operations of your entire business. So that's the main difference between that full-time HR and then the fractional HR piece of it. One is part-time and one is full-time. And when you think about a fractional HR professional, really we're more flexible, right? And really the name of the game is we are cost effective. We know as small business owners, you may be working with a limited budget. You may have designated your budget for certain things, but you know you need these things that HR provides. So that's when I step in. So that's what fractional HR is. Now you're probably wondering, okay, so how do I know when I need a fractional HR team or expert, right? So I wanted to share with you guys some ways to look into that, right? So when your business is really, really growing outside of what you started with, so you have an influx of money, right? When you need to hire additional team members, when you need to start paying people, when you want to be in compliance, as a business owner, you file with the state, you do all of these things, but depending on what that business is, you want to be in compliance because at any point your business can be audited. So you want to make sure that you have those things in order, right? So the second one set would be a limited budget. So maybe you don't have the funds right now to really hire a full-time HR staff member, right? This is when a fractional HR person would come into the fold. Maybe when you need specialized HR expertise, right? So setting up processes, doing recruiting and onboarding, getting, like I said, in compliance or preparing for a compliance audit. All of those things is when you need a specialized HR expert for a particular project, right? And then last, I would say a transition period, right? So if you're merging with another company, if you are joining forces for a particular project or anything like that, if you're acquiring someone, if you're about to sell your business and they're acquiring you, right? This is really when HR support is really, really critical because we play a role of really dotting the I's and crossing the T's, right? We're going through the paperwork. We're making sure everything is updated. We're putting a process in place. We on the fly can think through what policies are needed depending on what that merger and that acquisition looks like. And really, we handle a lot of most of the personnel issues, right? No business can really function without people, whether that's employees or customers. So that's really our area of expertise. And I like to say that HR really is the people business. We do all these different functions, but at the core, we are here to serve people. Okay, so you say, now you know you need a person, right? So what are some of the benefits of fractional HR? One, cost effectiveness, right? Budget friendly. You pay for only for what you need versus a full-time salary staff member, right? And you get to save on benefits as well. I don't know if you know, but as a current HR director, benefits are expensive. And what a lot of people don't know about the benefits is the side that you see, even though, in my opinion, a lot of these premiums are just through the roof. If you knew what it was total versus what you're paying, so what the company is actually paying, it might knock your socks off. So that's for sure, right? So it gives you flexible pricing models, right? So you can do hourly rates, project-based fees, or you can pay a monthly retainer for your fractional HR person. Flexibility, right? So it gives you the option to scale up your need, scale up or scale down based on what your need is, right? So maybe you have a peak time for your business. Maybe you have a certain enrollment. Maybe you're launching a new thing. Maybe you have something in the works, right? Where it's going to require more manpower, more hours, right? So that may be a time where you need to scale up, right? Maybe you need to hire staff for an event or for something that you're launching, right? That is considered something we would call maybe a peak time, right? So that would be an option. You'll be flexible to hire the HR person, right? And then when things slow down, you can reduce the need, right? Which would in turn save you some money because that would, of course, change the dynamics financial wise and what you would need from the HR person. And then it also gives you customizable support, I would say. So really tailored solutions that match your need, right? No, like I said, no day in HR is the same. No business need of HR is also the same, right? So it gives you the option to really customize the support you need when you need it and how you need it. Thirdly, I would say expertise, right? So as an HR professional, you have to stay up to date on so many laws, compliance things when things are changing, right? So we have, and depending on what your role is in HR, specialized knowledge. So for me, extending to a current HR director, right? So I have a wealth of knowledge for the full gamut of HR. So to be an HR director, you pretty much need to know how to run all the different parts of HR, right? So that gives me specialized knowledge, right? So you get access to a seasoned HR professional, right, with this expertise. So when an issue arises, this person is prepared and ready to really address whatever that need is, versus you have to try to figure it out, try to Google it, try to do consultations with people, right? You have in-house experts. Like they say with legal, sometimes they say in-house counsel, right? So the same thing with HR, right? So you really benefit from that knowledge and that experience and that expertise as well. And then lastly, I would say one of the benefits of fractional HR is focus, right? So we can provide a lot of strategic guidance, right? So we help to really align the initiatives of what your business goals are. So if you want to hire people, right? If you want to figure out how to properly onboard and welcome them to your organization, if you want for some small business start offering benefits, right? If you want to get in compliance, right? If you need to know what paperwork is needed, all of those things, employee files, organizing the back end of things, all of that stuff, right? It gives us that focus to focus on those things. So we get to focus on improving organizational culture, enhancing the employee experience and engagement, and really supporting leadership development. So those are some of the benefits of fractional HR. It's so many more, but these I think are things that speak to a small business owner. Okay, and so now, what are some of the areas that you think you may need support in, right? So I pulled out a few, and these are normally the ones that I run into as I'm working with small business owners, right? Always recruitment and onboarding. You know you need people, but how do you get the people? How do you get qualified people? How do you get the person that you need? You really have to speak the language to the person to attract the person that you need. And that's why recruitment and onboarding is so key, right? So a lot of what I do is developing job descriptions. How am I communicating my need? So when the person that I need sees this job description, they know it speaks to them, right? How do you post positions, which we call vacancies, right? And then once you get people to apply and you have this just massive amount of resumes and people submitting, right? How do you properly screen candidates, right? This is a key part of recruiting, because with my experience, I can recognize certain things in an interview, right? Telltale signs, how they show up to the interview, how late they are, how prepared they are, what is their body language, right? What is their demeanor when they're talking to me? How long does it take them to respond to a question that I'm asking them in regards to what their resume is saying or the position, right? Have they researched the company, right? I can pull out all of these different things. You know, normally when I ask a question, when a person start when they give me a lot of I know they're scrambling, right? Also says to me they're not prepared for the interview, right? So different things I get to recognize and pull out. I'm always looking for follow-up questions. What questions are they asking me as I'm screening the candidates, right? What do they know about the company? All of those things matter. And that's where a HR person steps in to be able to move people through the right people, right? Through the process, conducting interviews, right? And then once you find that dynamic person or persons, how do you onboard them? Now, statistically, onboarding is tied to employee retention. So what does that mean? How you welcome a person into a company has a major impact on how they come into the company, the quality of work they do, and how long they stay with the company, right? So onboarding is a place that you really want to put a lot of energy and effort into, because you want to bring them into the company culture, right? You want to set them up for them for success, and you want to prepare them with all the things that they need to really thrive in this role, right? And really, it's integration into the system that you already have, but it needs to be as smooth as possible. Okay. And then once we get the people in, then performance management, right? So, how do you know that the person that you're hired is doing a good job? We have to manage the performance of the employee, right? So, an HR person such as myself would design a performance appraisal system. So, what does that look like? Is that a 30-day check-in, 90-day, 60-day, mid-year, annual, right? How do we know if this person qualifies for a raise? What does that percentage look like? How am I calculating that percentage, right? What are the KPIs, the key performance indicators of this particular employee, right? All the things that we need to look for when we're managing an employee, right? And then a big part of that is, how are you steadily equipping that employee to not just do well, but to thrive in this position, right? And that's when a lot of training and development comes in. I know we talk a lot about personal development, but in this sense, it's a lot of professional development that's needed as well, because you get this person that comes into your organization with the skill set that they already have. Maybe you need them to acquire additional skills, right? Training, maybe that's manager training, maybe that's sexual harassment training, right? Maybe that's compliance. All of the things that they may need in order to thrive. And when the employee thrives, the organization thrives, right? Because if I'm my best self and I'm bringing my best best self, that's only a benefit for the business, right? And then you think about compliance and risk management, right? You want to make sure from a legal standpoint, right, that the employee as well as the business is adhering to labor laws. So having knowledge of how long a person can work, how long a person with disability can work, right? What happens when a person submits medical documentation, and how does HIPAA play a role in those things, right? How do you ask people for certain things? The language, the wording, right? What is required for certain things? So thinking about those labor laws and regulations helps to minimize the legal risk, because at any moment a person could file a lawsuit, and if you haven't done your due diligence as a small business owner and an HR person, right? You're opening yourself up to this person possibly winning a lawsuit, right? And then you think about the audit part of it. I do a lot of auditing, right? Because we're moving, things are happening, we're forgetting, right? So it's important to conduct HR audits, right? And then from that audit, what did I find? So I'm finding something before maybe a legal person comes in or outside auditor comes in looking for certain things, right? And then from that, what I found, I know what I need to implement, right, to avoid any compliant issues down the line. And then I would say one of the last places that fractional HR can really support a small business owner is through employee relations and engagement. Culture, culture, culture. Culture is so important in a small business. It's really the language that your business speaks. It's the vision that the employees have bought into, right? What is the culture like in your business? Is it something that's good, something that's edifying, that's supporting the employee and the business? Or is there some areas of opportunities? There's always areas of opportunities, right? So thinking about the culture, what do we need to do to foster a positive workplace culture and then address issues? Do we need a suggestion box, right? Do we need to have monthly town hall meetings, right? Do we need to send out weekly recap emails about certain things, right? Do we create an opportunity for people where people feel comfortable sharing their suggestions or speaking their minds, right? What does mediation look like when there's a disagreement between two employees, right? And then how do we engage these employees, right, to really reduce them, to boost the morale and reduce turnover, right? Do we do breakfast for them, once a month? Do we sponsor lunch, right? Do we have somebody come to the business to facilitate a need that they may? Do we give them gift cards, right? Do we have game nights? Like all of the things that you think about is, do we have days where you wear your favorite sports paraphernalia to work? All of those things to make it essentially a fun place to work. So those are some of the key areas that I think fractional HR person can support a small business owner, right? So now that you know that what's needed, right? You're saying, so how do I find this person? How do I know I found this person? What do I need to look for? First, before you look for the person, you need to assess and identify your need. That is going to help you guide you, according to the person that you need, right? So assess, conduct your own HR audit, right? Evaluate what the current HR capabilities are and identify the gaps. What are the gaps? The things that you need, things that you may not have right now. I would say perform a needs assessment, right? So you can figure out where you need the support. And that also will give you a lot of leeway to what your budget is, what you can afford according to your need, right? And then determine the scope of support. So I always say, what requires immediate attention? A lot of times people have this long list of things they want to do, and sometimes the budget doesn't match that. So it's more so, what requires immediate attention? Is it recruitment? Is it getting into compliance? Do you have an employee relations issue, employee engagement, right? So just think about, your company size. Is it you? Is it a team of 10? Is it a team of 50 people, right? What are some industry specific requirements? So if you're in tech, those requirements are going to look different from maybe a co-working space, right? And then decide where you are as far as growth. Did you just launch this business? Did you just cross over into a year? Are you over 3 years? All of those things really impact you assessing and identifying what your need is. All right. And then when you find a person, right, how do you evaluate that this is a good fit, right? So you want to evaluate their credentials, right? So do they have SHRM certification, which is an HR certification? Basically, it's kind of saying like you've mastered HR, right? Now, I want to say a person doesn't need a SHRM certification to be a good fractional HR person. It's just that extra step. It's essentially getting like a law degree, right? You know that you've mastered the law and how to utilize it, right? You want to think about their educational background. Has this person attended a college, a university? Have they graduated? What was even their major in that? because a lot of times that ties into a lot of their expertise. And then think about their experience. Now, this is where you're really going to find the person you're looking for, because you can have the certifications, you can have the educational background, but if you lack the experience of the day-to-day functions of an HR expert, then this person is probably not going to be a best fit for you. Take myself for example. Over a decade in as an HR director, I have so much experience being in different situations that I'm pretty much prepared for whatever is coming. I've seen it all, I've heard it all, and then I fixed it all. Olivia Pope style. And yes, I'm Nakia Pope, but you know what I mean. You want to look for experience. So, a track record in similar industries or businesses of similar sizes, right? And you can ask for these things. You can check the websites, right? All of those things. And then this is key. And this is where I see a lot of people error, right? Assessing the cultural fit. You want to make sure that the HR person that you decide to work with really aligns with one, your company values. What do you deem as important, right? And then the culture. That's important because this person has to interact with all members of your organization. What is their personality like, right? What is their cooler conversation like? What is their bedside manner, for lack of better terms, like, right? Is their approach more aggressive? Do you have more of a laid back environment and company culture? Do they move faster than you move? Do you guys move at a more strategic pace? Like, thinking about all of those things. Is this person the same ethnicity as you? That's a big part of it as well, right? So assessing if this person is a good cultural fit as well. And then I would say never hesitate to ask for references, right? If this person has worked with somebody, and especially if they have a testimonial like I have on my website, right? They should be totally fine with sending you either testimonies or references for previous clients. Of course, I would check with those clients first just to make sure. But if you can, speak to past clients, right? Ask questions, see how satisfied they were with the service. Anything you should be aware of or look out for, and then get clear on what their results were, because that could be in line a lot of what your results are as well. And then this is the last part of finding and selecting a fractional HR support. I would say, thinking about your engagement models, right, with this particular person. So three ways we normally do provide the HR support, right? One, hourly rates, right? So you pay only for the hours that are worked, right? So this is best if you have like a short term goal or ad hoc, which is as needed projects, right? And the hourly rate really depends on the expert, but I would say somewhere beginning in that 35 and up range is what you should expect. Now, if they're at a particular level, maybe a director or C-suite, you want to budget a little more of your coin. You want to be somewhere in that $45 to $50 an hour rate as well. And then, the second way to engage with an HR expert is project-based fees, right? So that's a fixed price. You guys agree on a number, it's in the contract, everyone sign, right, for a specific project. Maybe that's onboarding, revamping, and implementing your entire onboarding system, right? Maybe that's policy development. Maybe you don't have any policies for your business, but you need some. You have an ideal of what you need, and then the expert comes in and say, hey, you also need these, right? Maybe it's developing a training program, right? So that's a project-based fee. And then I would say last, and which is normally the most popular one, even for me and my business, is a retainer fee, right? So basically you get unlimited ongoing support as needed with a fixed monthly fee, right? That's consistent HR assistant when you need it, how you need it, right? And maybe that retainer is $1,500 a month, maybe it's $2,000, maybe it's $3,000. It all depends on your budget, your need, right? So these are some ways that you can engage a fractional HR person in regards to the monetary aspect of it. Okay, I am almost at the finish line, guys. I just want to give you just the basics of things. Didn't want to overload you too much, right? So I wanted to give you a detailed breakdown of what a fractional HR support can look like. And so for this particular scenario, this is a recruitment and onboarding, right? So if you hired an HR person or a HR expert to facilitate recruitment and onboarding, maybe this is an ad hoc project, right? Project-based fee, right? So this is what I would do coming in, right? I would develop a job description for all the jobs that you need, right? And I provided an example there for you to read at your leisure. And then once I developed the job description, I would post the vacancies, right? Normally that's LinkedIn, Indeed, and in this particular example, like tech job boards, right? So even if I wasn't aware of what a tech job board as an HR expert, I would go and find out what are the top tech job boards that we would need to engage in order to find top talent, right? And then I would reach out to the people that work in tech, like, what do you guys use? And network as well. And then once I post the vacancies and we get some qualified candidates, right, I start to screen them, right? So I would pretty much go through and what we call shortlist candidates. And so those are people that you have deemed are people that you feel safe and comfortable that can really do the job, right? Maybe I got 100 interviews, 100 resumes. Maybe I shortlisted 10 or 15, right? These are people that at first glance and conversation that I'm like, oh, okay, this person may be a good fit. Let me put them in this pile, right? Maybe they meet the requirements. Maybe they have the experience. Maybe they have post-secondary education, whatever that is. And then I normally start with an initial phone interview, you know, easy, just some way to just begin the conversation, right? That way I don't have to take the time to set up a platform, a video interview, extra detailed questions. This is just to see if this person is who they say they are on paper. That's essentially the purpose of initial phone interview, and just to get clear on if they have the basic requirements. And a lot of times that's salary, flexibility, availability, in office, hybrid, if they need benefits, right? When can they start? All of those things. Do they have a non-compete? That's all of the things that I'm asking in the initial phone interview as well. And then after that, I would further go ahead to conduct the interview, right? So now this is an in-depth interview with job specific questions. A lot of those things are going to come from the job description that I posted. That's why you need that expert, because we know how to connect the dots for the whole operation, right? So I'm asking specific questions based off the job description that I've developed as well. That tells me a lot too, if the person can answer those questions or if they can't. Did you skim through the job interview or did you really read it? Did you get clear on identify if you have these skills as well, right? And so then I will perform the interview. And then after that, the onboarding piece of that is once the candidate is hired, I would design a comprehensive onboarding program that would include orientation. So introducing them to the company's mission, values, and policies, a training schedule, right? Because when you bring somebody in, you want to train them according to the way that you do things or the way you want to do things, right? So we go over tools, processes, and role-specific skills. Mentorship. This is one of my favorite parts of onboarding, right? Assign them a mentor or a buddy to help them acclimate to the company culture and workflows. Be careful on who you choose for mentorship. Make sure that they also are already a superstar at the job. And then follow up, right? Regular check-ins in the first 90 days to address any concerns that they have. And this is also key because this person is coming to the organization with fresh eyes, right? So they may see things that we don't see because we're already in it. We're a part of it, right? They may have feedback on things that you can improve or change for the next hire. So this is a detailed breakdown of how a fractional HR person would approach the recruiting and onboarding. Okay, so we've basically made it to the end, right? So if you feel like you are in need of HR support, right, and you're ready to take the HR management to the next level, definitely reach out. I am always open to take on new clients, right? And it's really a partnership. We work together to tailor a solution according to what you need. So definitely, screenshot this. I'm going to share this PowerPoint with Alicia for her to send out at a later date as well. But my company is Resume Renovators. We started as a resume renovation company, right? We fixed and refreshed and edited all of the resumes according to the job we were applying for. But then we found there was a deeper need for fractional HR support. So we have expounded. And so this is all of the information that is for myself in the business. So if you want to reach out, and that concludes my brief but impactful presentation. So if you're ready, I am going to kick it back to Miss Alicia Levels Moore.
Awesome. Well, first of all, Nakia, I have a notebook and I'm just like jotting things down. So all right, listen, it was a great jam-packed session. And so there are a few things I want to pull out based on the audience that we have and the needs that we've had an opportunity to identify. So I think it was really good because a lot of businesses are now in that build phase, right? So they've started, they're in business, they've been working at it, but now it's time to really start thinking about what does growth look like? And a part of growth, two things that stood out is how do you bring someone on to help you, and how do you establish a culture? So a lot of people are really at ground zero when they're thinking they're going from being a solopreneur, running their business, they're making some money, but now it's like, okay, in order for me to really build, I have to start thinking about how do I increase my capacity. So one, what would be your recommendation if they're at the very beginning? I heard you make mention of a few tools. So, being able to kind of sit down and do your own audit. But I think, one of the things that's really important, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday in one of our sessions about systems and operations. What is some practical advice you can provide people when they're thinking about, one, establishing a culture, right? So you've been doing it on your own. So sometimes you are the culture. Whatever feel good to you, that's what we're doing, right? And so it's like, how do you think about establishing a culture and bringing someone into that? And then also expound on, regardless of who you're getting ready to hire, it's still important to take them through a process. And I'll say a little bit more about that. So, say for instance, if I have an online boutique, right, and I'm thinking about expanding, and I have a cousin, she's been down, right? And I'm like, okay, I have a little more overhead. I can bring somebody else in. Just come on Monday. We open from 9 to 6, right? But it's important, even if you're connected to someone, you know them, to still invite them into a process. So one, what are some kind of initial things you would say about how to establish a culture when you're going from just yourself to bringing somebody else in, and why it's important, regardless of who you're bringing in to help you, to involve them and invite them into a process?
No, those are good questions. I would say one, as far as culture, at the core of whatever a company culture is really your values. What do you value as an organization? And really, as the CEO, it's your job to decide what that looks like, because this is your business, right? Do you value integrity, right? Time management, certain social skills, like all of those things. Think about the things that you value as an organization. And I would say one step further, it's like, when people think about your business, what do you want them to feel like? What are those key words? She's sharp. She's always on top of things, right? This is always a dynamic experience that I have with her. The customer service is out of this world, right? She's available, right? All of those things, right? Thinking about the things that you value. And then once you decide what you value, then how do I put those things into action, right? Sometimes we get the values and then we say, well, we value integrity, right? So when a situation comes up with an employee, right, that they may not have been practicing integrity, how do you handle it? How do you discipline? This is a conversation. Do you put them on a PIP, which is a performance improvement plan, right? Is it automatic termination, right? Do you review the policy with them? Do you put them on a write-up? Like, all of those things impact the culture. And always remember that everyone's watching the outcome of pretty much everything. And we know in any business, people talk, right? So if I did something that wasn't integral, or a person did, and they only got a slap on the wrist, right? Or, you only said, we'll get to it at a later date, and you didn't put any immediate action, what is that communicating to the other people that work there? I'm going to say it's going to open up a door for a lot of things to transpire. So at the core of figuring out your culture is really, what do you value? And how do you put your values into action? And then the second part of that was what again, Alicia?
The second part was the importance of bringing somebody into a process, regardless of who you're hiring. So even if you are familiar with that person, they've been working with you, their family, why you need to bring them into a process. And even before you answer that, as you were talking, answering the first part of the question, I was thinking about why it's important to have things documented. So even as a business owner, I know sometimes you can get help, and the help seems more burdensome than not have help. You like, I should have just did this by myself. But the only reason we feel like that, though, is because we don't have anything documented. So we think that people are supposed to operate based on what's in our head, right? And so we have an expectation and a standard, but it has not been communicated, that people can't find it anywhere. They don't know what success looks like. They don't know what the wrong thing looks like. So I'm just thinking also too about why fractional HR and having that type of support is because you have documented processes, right? Because ultimately, I hope most people I'm connected to, there is one part of business where you're like, listen, I'm just trying to make an extra couple of coins so I can keep it going from month to month.
That's a side hustle.
Right. And it's there's nothing wrong with side hustle.
Nothing wrong with a side hustle.
But listen, but the community of people that we're supporting, our goal is to help them get to the next level. And one of the things that we're big on in what we call our Constellation Collective is our 3 C's, right? It's building your confidence, your capacity, and your capabilities. And the only way you can build your capacity is if you start thinking bigger. We were in a session this week, and someone was like, "Oh, I didn't know if I should come to the strategy or the systems and operations workshop because I didn't think I was ready." And I want to start getting people thinking about stuff before they think that they're ready.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's why I'm really want to introduce fractional HR, because even if you're thinking about going to one person, you need somebody on your team that can create that job description. Right. You need someone who knows where to put it, how to help you to vet people, because this is your business. And ultimately, whoever is attached to you, they're also attached to your customers. And people are going to experience them first. And you want to ensure that if you had to take yourself out of the equation, if you weren't feeling well, if you were on vacation, whoever is representing your business is still representative of who you are. Right. Yes. And so those processes are just so important. So I just wanted to throw that in there, because I think sometimes when people will hear this conversation and say, well, I'm not ready for that yet. But, in order to really start thinking about the build phase of your business, you have to start exposing yourself and being prepared for what you don't think you're ready for. But the part B of the question was, why is it important to bring people into processes regardless of how close and connected y'all are?
Well, shout out to my cat. He just hopped in. He would not be left off bad and bougie. Do you want to say hello or not? Okay, go ahead. Say hey to the people. Okay. My boy gonna represent. Okay. So I would say, okay, now you do. Okay, stop, man. You're embarrassing me. He just threw me off.
No, bringing people into
the importance of bringing people into an organization. One, I would say, professionalism has to be at the top, right? I know we all have different dynamics, different relationships, and different ways that we do things more from a social aspect, right? But when you're talking about business, everything has to be professional from the beginning, right? Because that's also a part of how you establish the culture, right? And so even, in my line of work, like, I have a big personality. I'm very friendly. I'm very personable. But when it's time to handle business, I am professional. I'm professional in how I address you. I'm professional in my correspondence with you. I'm professional in how I take criticism. I'm professional in how I move as far as putting things into play, right? So you always want to be professional when you're bringing people on, right? And then when you're bringing people in, you want to have some type of roadmap for them. I run into people that say, oh, this assistant wasn't a good fit. She didn't do this. I said, well, did you give her a training manual? Did you outline what the duties are? Did you already outline the steps that you go through? We can expound on anything later, but do you even know how to do it? A lot of times with entrepreneurs, things live in your brain. And I always have to tell them, nobody's a mind reader. How do they know? Right? But do you even know how to explain this step by step to another person? Because you're so used to doing it. And that's a part of that auditing process that I talked about earlier. Like, you got to audit your own brain as well. You got to audit your own processes for things. Like, how am I doing this? Am I winging it every time and surprised on how I get here? Or am I going through specific steps, right? So professionalism, you want to have a roadmap for people. And then you want to be clear on what you need them to do, right? You say you have a virtual assistant can do many things. Do you need many things, or do you need 3 things, right? And that also is going to guide your budget, right? What you can pay, and then it helps for that person to come into agreement according to your budget and what the need is as well, right? And then tying that into we call it SOP, standard operating procedures, right? That's pretty much a step-by-step on how you do a thing, right? How do you onboard a person, right? How do you facilitate a particular task in the business, right? I mean, you got to go step by step from, hey, go to www. Right? Click on this button. Next, then click on this button. It's going to open it to this slide, right? You want to include pictures, right? It has to be so precise that anybody could do it. An SOP is so good because if you go on vacation, or if you're sick, or if that person is sick, you should be able to hand that SOP off to anybody, even the janitor. And he should be able to go through step by step to get the thing done, because that is going to keep your business moving and flowing. Like, you don't want to be the bottleneck in your own business, because everything is technically above your neck. You see what I did there? Okay. So Touche.
Yeah.
So that's important to have standard operating procedures. And don't be intimidated. It doesn't have to be this long verbose thing. That's what the expert is going to do. It could be 10 steps. It's something. So you can delegate different tasks to the person, right? And you know if they follow this 10 steps, they'll get to the same outcome every time. Maybe you hire a fractional HR person. They say, hey, we should add some additional steps. So maybe we need to expound on these things. Maybe we need to include links. Maybe we need to add resources, right? Maybe we need to create like a company library, right? And it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be Google Drive, but you got to know how to go in and map out different folders for different things. You got to know what folders you need. The HR person needs to know what folders are needed according to the conversations. They got to know what documents that you use over and over again, right? Do we have a template for certain things, right? They have to know all of these things. So that's why standard operating procedures are so important when you're bringing people on and for the people that are currently a part of the business as well.
Yeah, I think that's good. A few things I wanted to pull out from that is one, you have to really, in the beginning phases of this process, when you're determining, okay, is fractional HR for me? Is it something I need to do? The answer is going to always be yes. But one of the first steps is to think through, okay, do I know what the process is? Do I know the procedure? When we go back to culture, what do I value? Start to kind of do a self-assessment of who you are as an owner, as an operator. And then think about, do I know the process that I go through? It sounds like too, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, it's important. One of the first steps maybe that they can take, like a baby step, is bringing somebody on who does fractional HR, like Nakia, on a project-based fee, right? To just do an HR audit, to look at what you have or what you don't, and just give you an audit and get you a clear roadmap of what you have and what you don't have. And then that can help you to say, okay, I need to prioritize this. Maybe I can prioritize this. And that can help just based on getting started. And then based on a budget standpoint. So once you kind of get that HR audit from that professional, then you can say, okay, I want to just focus on this project first, then this project second. I have these things out the way. Now I'm ready for a monthly retainer. So then that it helps you ease into a monthly process because you've kind of handled some of those big things, right? You're feeling good about it, and then you're ready for that monthly retainer. Because one thing too, we try to help people to do is get out of their own way. And so sometimes if something seems like a behemoth of a thing, we're gonna shut the laptop, right? And so trying to think
analysis paralysis.
Yes. And so thinking through some of those bite-sized things. So I think even if your first step, if you're contemplating what that looks like, get in touch with Nakia, do an HR audit and just see what you have, what you don't have, and what may be the first next step, the first best priority for you in your business. And so I just think it's really good. We touched on again in one of our other sessions this week about a standard operating procedure. And so if you all get an opportunity, you can find all of this on our YouTube. That session was with Archie Stewart, and she gave a template of SOPs. She gave a list of different tools that you can use to automate some things. So we also have some complementary sessions that go and build on each other. So I want people to know that there's a resource too. So I thank you so much for just giving up your time. I know as an HR professional, you're dealing with people all day. So I'm sure your social battery is low. So we appreciate you for
low like this light. Did you see how the light is try to take no shine?
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
I'm shining, dog. It's okay.
So we appreciate your time. We appreciate your expertise and sharing of your skill. Also, again, there you can find this stream on our YouTube. You can also find on our website there as a tool and resource. And when you go on our YouTube, you will find sessions for the past 3 years on accounting, HR, corporate innovation, social media, anything you can think of to help you in this process. We have it. We also have a podcast that helps you with different interviews. So we are a resource. We're glad to be here in the ecosystem to support our small business owners and entrepreneurs with really tangible insights that you can take, begin to implement, and expose you to new things. So Nakia, thank you so much. Again, if you guys, that slide is on there. We'll make sure we share this information for all those who register. You'll get an email with information, phone number, email, website to be able to get in touch with Resume Renovators. If you have any other needs and support, or even if you are listen, you like, hold up, all right, I'm working on this business, but I also got a job. I need you to look at my resume, sister. She can also help you, right? Because we do not shun having a job. That is also a part of investing in yourself. So also she has that resource as well. So thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to add as we conclude?
I want to say thank you for having me. I love what you're doing. I think this is the invaluable, amazing resource for entrepreneurs and small business owners. Thank you for sharing your platform and just being intentional about providing resources to other people, right? It's really this mentality as we live as we climb, right? And so that's the last I'm going to do with that light. We live as we climb, and I think it's just a very dynamic thing that you're doing. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to help, and I'm also happy to be a resource as well.
Yes. Okay. So we have a question that came through from Valerie. She was asking, as a solopreneur, Nakia, are there any apps that you can use to help capture or document steps to create an SOP?
Yes. One of my favorites is called Trainual, Trainual, like manual, but it's Trainual. And let me make sure.
And then also, while you're looking that up, we learned from Archie during our operation and systems, there is an app called Tango. So it helps you to actually do.
That was the second one. Yes.
Yes, she told us about
Trainual
Tango,
and
and I was
Tango.
Yes, I was super excited. So with Tango, you can actually go on your computer, your laptop, start to do the process, and Tango will document it and write it for you. It can screen record. So that also helps you to write out those SOPs and to document them via video and Word doc. So Tango is another resource that can help you to start creating those SOPs as well. And you said that was Trainual, Nakia?
Yeah, I'm just showing you a little bit where you can see it. It is Trainual. And it's really good. It doesn't have the screen record feature that Tango has, but it'll go and you can start documenting your processes as well. So they have an option, I think it's free, and then for a paid version. Start with a free if you have to, but nevertheless, yes, that's those are two recommended resources from me.
Awesome. Tango, Trainual, because again, too, like when you start thinking about this stuff, it's like, oh my God, this is so much to do on top of running my business, which is a lot of times the reason why we don't do certain things. We'll just do it until we can't get away with it anymore. But that's not helping us to get to a place of growth or sustainability or the level of professionalism that we want to go to. So Trainual, Tango will help you to start documenting those SOPs and get you prepared for the fractional HR services. Because again, I think it's important to have an idea of who you are, determine your values. I think that was a great gem. And then understanding, what do I do? And what do I need help with? And beginning to get that HR audit to see where you are, and allow that fractional HR professional to support you in identifying what's one good first priority and getting that HR support. And so again, my goal is for us to be prepared before it's time, right? You can't be ready for the harvest when it comes. You have to already have everything in place. Don't start. You have to already have everything in place to be prepared for what's to come. So again, thank you, Nakia. Valerie, thank you so much for that question. If you guys have any questions, again, we'll share Nakia's information. You can always find information on our website, PolarisBHM.com, our Instagram, Polaris Birmingham, as well as our LinkedIn, Polaris Birmingham. Find us. We have got your back. We are serious about you, and we can't wait to see you all and see your success. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good night.